I'm done. Yeah, I understand that 100%. Oh, that was nice.
I remember those
My dad
days.
still has a flip phone.
So, but it can buy me a boat. Yeah, it can buy me a boat.
He's still in age.
Wednesday, July 11th, 2018. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. The next item on the agenda is actually to approve the agenda.
It'll
Any other items?
Old business for the liquor store.
5E.
Sure.
Hearing none, a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Moving on to number 2, consent agenda. We have 2A1, the minutes for June 13, 2018.
The minutes and financial reports as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 2B, financial reports, we have number 1, the city statements.
I have one. I think you just approved those.
I was going to make a motion and included both of them.
So if you have any questions, we'll answer the questions. If there's any that you'd like to pull, just make a new motion.
Hearing no questions? On the financial. So we'll move on then to the public comment, number 3. To 3 minutes. Do you have any comments from anyone? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the 2017 City Moose Lake Audit Financial Statements presentation.
We're here to wrap up the 2017 audit, and as in previous years, instead of going through the really thick bound.
Yeah, if I could hop in right there on. As well, but he'll be going through the PowerPoint.
Page 3, your audit team consisted of myself and the Josh Mann, Danny Locke. In years past, we had a manager, his name was Mike Olson, and he chose the alumni path, had a great opportunity. So we were able to replace him with actually a very experienced crew where we have over 46 years of government accounting and auditing experience that worked on your audit. Page 4, audit standards drive the testing we do, the reporting we do, and one of the reporting things that we need to do is communicate referred to that you should have. It's about 4 pages long. I think I've told you in the past it's boilerplate. I'm just going to touch on a couple key things. One, we got to issue an opinion on your financial statements when we do an audit, and we issued what's called an unmodified opinion, which means in conducting the audit or disagreements with management as we were performing the audit, that would be in that letter, but it city and truly for the council and mayor, I just want to bring to your attention, the staff really had everything ready for us. That doesn't always happen in our audits, and we are here on site, and that just makes the audits go that way. So thank you to everybody for their cooperation. Control required to communicate to you. One, segregation of duties that's been around for a few years. With a city your size, this is very, very common, and oh man, your size, get that same comment or communication. Year-end closing procedures, the city has lots and lots of transactions that flow through your general ledger, your accounting system, and we had just a couple adjustments, one for accruals and some reclassifications to make sure the revenues get in the right bucket on the external financial statements, but truly not very many at all, but we're still required to communicate that to you. And then the third one, financial statement preparation. City staff enter all your transactions into the general ledger. But when it comes to putting the bound book together, that process, we have a software that works really, really well. We're just required to communicate to item in the auditing standards came across in the audit that are deemed significant deficiencies. State statutes, and then report on those. Happy to report that after we did all our testing for cash investments and contracting and disbursements and debt, there are no written findings to be reported there either. So that is good news. Any questions so far? I only have like another hour and a half left, so. And your total liabilities. There's a couple other things, but in general, that's what it means. It's your about $1 million. That means the gap between your assets and liabilities got about $1 million bigger, to the good. Like if they were equal standpoint. Your total net worth, difference between assets and liabilities in your financial statements is about $18.3 million. And 37% of that is to use for city purposes. The other parts are either restricted by state statutes or grant agreements, costs. So overall, you can see it's been trending upwards, so I think that reflects a pretty strong financial position for the city. On page 9, we look at the general fund. It's the primary operating fund of the city, and for the year, its fund balance decreased about $51,000. It went from just under $1.4 million to about $1.33 million in 2017. And just like with that net position, there's different categories of what we call the fund balances, and unassigned means in the general fund you have funds available to cover operating costs, and it's unassigned. And for the year, that unassigned bucket of funds decreased about $72,000 of decreases, which could be a little alarming, could be, but the fact is, a key measurement is how many months of expenditures do you have built up in fund balance, your reserves, if that makes sense. And for the year, or at the wide, that have kind of weighed in saying, you know, a good target is no less than 5 months. For those who've been on the counts for a while, I'd mention this each year, but it is a really good target, no less than 5 months. And the city's general fund is sitting at 7 months, so it's above that no less than amount. So overall, pretty strong. But it did drop about 1.5 months from the prior year, and we'll see in a couple slides slide 10, we take a look at all of the city's governmental funds. It's like, okay, where's the city getting their money from? How much is from taxes? How much is from grants? And just like just about every city, the two primary sources are tax revenues and IGR, which we just use as an acronym for intergovernmental. Year, all your governmental funds saw an increase in revenues of about 191,000. But the allocations as far as how much you're dependent, but the allocation percentages are overall pretty. Again, this is just governmental funds. I have some slides where we look at the enterprise funds a little bit later. But for the year, expenditures actually increased about, and I apologize for this little typo, I think, they actually increased about 479,000 for the year. And the biggest area was in capital outlay, which increased about 420,000. So that kind of touches on that overall increase. Are pretty consistent from year to year. That's all I got there. So on slide 12, the city's governmental funds have some debt, some bonds payable. For the year, Moose Lake issued $409,000 of new street bonds, and that's represented by the uptick in the green line there on the chart. But it only went up 239,000. Well, that's because you paid off 170,000 of your old bonds. So you mush them two together. Compensated absences are all pretty minor, so I won't touch on those. Slide 13 is you have the enterprise funds, or also called proprietary funds, is a larger group for it, I guess. Increased about 160,000 for the year. As part of the audit, we made sure that all the city funds issues there. Mentioned earlier, we'll touch on. Can tell you pretty quickly how this fund has been doing over the years. The green bars are revenues, the red bars are the expenses. That's a good thing. The cash flows from operations actually increased for the year by about $16,000. So that's the difference between operating revenues and operating expenses. So just operationally, it was showing overall profit. Operating revenues were up about $10,000 for the year, and expenses were down about $10,000 for the year. Next slide looks at the gross profit percentage, and it increased by 0.5% in 2017. Had a your Gross profit percentage was 31.7 for the year. Now, the overall statewide average is a little over 41 in 2016, and the reason we're comparing two different years is the reports for 2017 aren't all done yet. So it's a little bit of comparing like it's not so much an apple to a banana, it's like an apple to an orange. At least they're similar in shape a little bit. So, but overall, the state auditor's office, it's up about 49,000. Trending in the right direction as far as financial stability. The next slide, we look at the water fund. Its revenues were down about 21,000 for the year, but its expenses were down 57,000. So if you kind of match that up or apply it to like your own personal finances, some down more than your revenues went down, that should still help you overall financially, and that's really what's happened here in the water fund for 2017. Again, we can see a number of years where the green bars of revenues are exceeding the revenues. So again, fund, its revenues were up about not quite 2,000 for the year. Its expenses were down about $1,700 for the year. So might have been up or even went down, but in general, they're all resulting in a positive hit to the bottom line. So even if revenues were down, expenses in general had gone down right with them. So you're not eating into your reserves in these funds. I think the last one's the electric fund. Its operating revenues were up about 97,000. When you have 6 years in a row of the revenues exceeding expenses, sometimes this one would have probably cut into your reserves a little bit, but there's still sufficient reserves there. So sometimes that happens. You got to dip into the savings or your reserves. So overall, try to summarize the big picture things. You got fund balance is strong in the general fund. Even though there was a loss in the current year of about 51,000, 577,000 over budgeted in expenditures because you had those unbudgeted capital outlay expenditures that were needed, and the council approved them. They're like, you know what, they weren't budgeted for, but we got to have them. And the revenues were over budget by about 343,000 due to intergovernmental revenues. Liquor store again posted a profit. Sales were up, and you know they don't have a grading system for audits or financial position, but truly I think city gets a thumbs up for 2017 as far as financial operations go, and open it up for questions.
Community, the 400,000 where there was a difference that you mentioned in the beginning, and I could see later because of the flood, correct?
In the sewer fund?
Yeah.
No, in the sewer fund, it's just the lift station project.
It was the lift station.
Yep.
Okay.
In the general fund, where he's talking about how we had,
That's the big project.
yep, so we have the $51,000 in overall loss, the $577,000 over budget in expenditures, Arena, Highway 73, 3rd and Kenwood. So when you look at 343,000 over budget for revenue, 225,000 of that is just the Arena. 577,000 over budget for expenditures, 250,000 of that is for the Arena. The flood, I'd have to look up, but basically we covered 25% of all expenditures for the flood. Highway 73 was supposed to be free. That one, I think just the initial payment that we sent to them was $80,000. So those are the big ones.
I just wanted to kind of put that out to the community to know why some of those, like especially 73 that we did not budget for, and went up quite fast. And for the arena, that was matching fund for Mighty Ducks grant.
Yeah, so in that case, for a $250,000 project, it's over budget both ways, but it only really cost us $25,000 for a $250,000 project.
So when you look at it that way, that explains it more. I wanted to make sure that our revenue, it changed from the expense and revenue after we got the new. Sudden, we started losing money with their new program. And they have not solved it yet, and I don't think they know how to solve it. About every motor vehicle in the state, unfortunately. I don't know if you have any more, Tim, you wanted to mention to that, but
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the DMV is that we don't over it, so, yeah.
thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, that's
Anything
all
else?
that I had. Council, any questions?
Just want to thank him and
Yeah, I guess to add on to that one, I think one of the big changes is Katie did a lot more of the audit this year and did a very, very, very good job. So the whole thing went smooth, I guess, from my standpoint is much more important, right? Went smooth as far as I could see as well. It was awesome having Katie to go through that, so.
My audit team loves working with everybody here, and including myself. And it's because it's not too often we get to pop in and do the audit, and everything's there, so.
Nice work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Katie.
your good
I
job.
have one question,
Thank you, Katie.
maybe for Tim.
Which page are you on?
On page 6, whether you said.
So I just I will say, I just emailed you guys the whole packet because you can't actually read these things.
I can't.
So can I see yours?
Yeah.
I want to see what the scale is for it. That might be one of the biggest reasons. Yeah.
Because to me, it would be almost the same every year, the revenues, it wouldn't change.
So the scale,
It's dependent upon usage.
yep, so the scale for this one, like if you looked at sewer, I bet you the scale on the left side is bigger. The scale that we're between is between $200,000 and $250,000. $10,000, $15,000, 2013 to that one is that one's quite a bit. That one's probably maybe $50,000 total, and then went back down in 17 back to 250. So taking 2016 out, it only goes up or down about $10,000. 2016 is kind of the outlier, and I guess I would say that we probably they'll follow each other differently now.
Yeah, I thought that was farther back.
Did the
but, yeah.
16 flood have anything to do with this calculation?
I don't know that we used more water because we flooded,
I was
but
thinking you may read more because of the flood, but it may not have anything to do with the graph.
well, let's just say between 16 and 17. Let's say in 2016 it was $280,000 in revenue, and 2017 was 260 or know that that's huge. I think the scale is pretty small on that too, so it's not as big a jump as it seems.
I don't know if I...
That we would have sold more water for?
Building the school?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know that we would have sold more water because the school bill
I'm always
was built.
concerned with the larger meters. You know, we've had problems with them in the past. Correct.
When did the hospital expansion take place?
That was in that period, so was Quick Trip and,
McDonald's, Subway. I mean, McDonald's and Subway don't use a ton of water, but the Mercy Hospital expansion could be.
No, instead of up.
Yeah.
It's a decrease. So,
moving on to number 4, department.
See, this has probably been different criminal activities that we've had to designate a lot of time to work on. So a couple of pretty in-depth investigations that we're working on. Did some search warrants. Us getting methamphetamine in a house and a vehicle. Just been very we helped with the kitty parade that one. So making plans for National Night Out and host the whole community and cook up hot dogs and hamburgers and have some games and prizes and whatnot. So full partnership that the police department has with our citizens. So another thing, last night I met with an interview help with that request. Does that sum it up, Ted?
Yeah, and we're kind of talking about a few different options if and that'll come as they come forward to us with what they can do. And if we need be, we'll look at some other options. Report you on that.
Something we definitely need, and done several interviews this last month where that would have been really nice to have a designated interview room with video and audio, and privacy is the big thing. The triathlon is just a very, very busy time. Moose Lake is just a extremely busy town, especially in the summer. So, but all in all, things are going very well. So.
I have just a couple things. One of the things mentioned in Bryce's report is the number of hours spent up at DOC. There's an awful lot of overtime that's associated. Only time to get it done is when they can work on it. I'm sure that this has come up a million times. Something has got to change with the prisons and MSOP not paying for this kind of work. I mean, 90 hours spent up at DOC is...
Fire department sent a bill and they paid it, so why as the police department can't we send some sort of bill to them? And I mean, in excess of the regular, general 4 or 5 hours we might spend a month there, but seeing what they say.
not.
They can charge up to 200 thing where they can fall back, and it is a legal request, so you can do that. I
Be
think
worth a try.
quite a few years ago, we went into negotiations on this very issue, and all that resulted was the money going to being allocated, but it went to the county, to the attorneys. But we have not.
I don't know, I just think it'd be worth a try. We're not paying this or whatever, but I just think anything over and above can average out what we do usually there a month, and anything over that, you know, they know what you're doing, so it's not, yeah.
Okay.
I would support sending them a bill and see what they say.
So then the second thing is, downplays it a little bit here. You know, every month. Very busy. They have been doing an excellent, excellent job. And I just think that it's a lot right now based on our audit. You want to talk about the window and the squad, just in case a bill comes through on that?
Sure. Got a call of mentally unstable individual that was transported to Mercy Hospital, ripped his IVs out and left the hospital, was in traffic swearing at passerbys and flicking off cars. Subsequently, he was arrested for disorderly conduct, brought him to the jail. He got out of the squad car, he began to fight, assaulted one of the officers. $1,400 damage to the squad.
Shaped hole in the...
We obviously are sent up charges. It has to go through St. Louis County since it happened in Duluth. But again, we're dealing with a lot of very, very difficult people. So job gets harder and harder every day.
I just got two things. First of all, 223 calls tells a lot, just the calls alone. The second thing is discussion with our officers that are on call. I would say the part-time. Can we go, is it 14 hours a week?
I can't believe I forgot this, considering it's not 14 a week. I think it's 14 per pay period.
14 a week.
Okay.
Is that working for you? Is that adequate?
Well, obviously sometimes we need them more than others, and kind of averages out to be under the yearly allotted. Get every day off, but they also have a deadline to have guaranteed time off, and if they put in for that deadline, we make sure they get the time off if I have to work it myself, which I have several shifts. Honestly, in the summertime, I could 100% justify a full-time investigator just to follow up on a lot of these calls and help and cover the street more and more than I have. So, and I think we get results. I think we have a good reputation. I think we do a good job. Thank God this town has a police. I think you do get results though, so.
Public Works report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we as well had a very busy month of June. After last month's council meeting, the heavy rains of June 16th to the 18th really it did create a lot of work for us. We ended up with completely multiple streets were scraped from debris, gravel, rocks, so on and so forth, from being washed from the heavy rains. The deposits were left on the blacktop, obviously cleaned off. Approximately 1,000 lineal feet to ditching did take place just to clean everything back up from dirt and sediment and silt to approximately. All did take place. I mean, we got some rain, yeah, but it wasn't as hectic as before. But there was on that way, but putting things back together, getting things going again. All those things I mentioned, they're patched up. They are definitely usable. Everything is safe. Everything is back open. Funds back for that, I'm assuming.
And do you want to talk about what you did and how much?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I think we were somewhere around $30,000 to $40,000 worth of damage for my department wide. So that need to be totally replaced. Culverts that found out were junk and ended up washing sections of streets away, so on and so forth. Very similar to what happened in 2016, and then moving on, the water department distributed 4 million gallons drinking water. Our water tower was inspected. Collected 21.5 million gallons of wastewater. If you look from last month, that is up quite a bit. We did have about 3 times the amount. They're actually somewhere really fast, and all of a sudden our readings are through the roof, and which has worked. Tim and I have worked through, and then we now will be sending out the first bill at the beginning of next month. Correct?
Yes.
Correct. July holiday, try to ordinance thing is pretty much on the up and up there. And then some of the equipment things we have going on. Just have to touch on no issues, not a single call, anything plugging up, anything backing up from not keeping up. It's been very, very good. So.
Make sure you pass it on to your crew, too. What they've done from the rain flooding.
Moving on to technology.
Steve, did the equipment for the liquor store get installed, and is everything working yet?
What's that?
The liquor store, is the new equipment in there, or the cameras working in there?
There's just a converter that was bad that they had to reorder, and it's
With Harlan on trying to figure out some connectivity issues down there. Sounds like they got it figured out, and we'll have that replaced, and then we should be up and running there. We do have fiber run to the campground now, and I think that one will be coming on soon, and then we can work on the Wi-Fi down at the campground as well.
Is there a time frame down there with the
Equipment for that.
I'm meeting with them next week.
For next month.
because the season's leaving us here. Winter's coming.
Any questions from the council?
No.
No. Nothing else? You good, Tim? Moving on to city engineer report, anything to pass on?
They updated some of the maps. They're still working on updating a few. Phil had gone through all of the kind of city policies and standard details for streets, utilities, all that stuff, so they're getting closer to all of that. We did talk about a grading and land disturbance permit. The woman that came in prior to the last city council meeting, for those of you that were here, there was a parking lot that was dug up and the contractor had trenched in, trying to avoid and get a little bit about a little bit later. Water tower inspections, Phil just talked about. Sanitary, before we even get to the budget meeting where some of you tell me that we're not doing another budget without a road, this is one of the things that I would like to, yeah, I know. Sewer line that collects all of this and had to have somebody else clean for the first time. Now we can, but we had to have somebody else clean. We took out a 40-foot root ball out of it. I mean, that's bad. Those are not supposed to be in there. So talk about I&I issues. There's an awful lot of people that empty into that. So this is one of the projects. It's not fun. It's not cool. It's in a gravel alley, so it's not like we're even getting a road out of the deal. But this is one of the projects that I really think that we need to look at for next year with some of our working on for quite some.
Is it Doug and Mike? On roads so that we are ready, because some have really deteriorated more than others, especially First Street.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know what
last
it
time the
is.
priority list came out that it was, Phil went through with the engineers and they came up with a priority list. See how fast that moved on to somebody else? Phil?
And not to take you guys off the hook completely, but
okay.
I honestly, I think on the combination of those three. I know that roads can get bumpy and choppy, but we have a lot of really old water and sewer as well, and some of the road work needs to be based on that stuff as well.
They have to be, it has to be kicked up. So it's,
Yeah, I agree. I
it's
drive
really
First
bad.
Street every day, and
I'm not saying that's not the worst
it
one.
literally, you are
it'd
gonna,
be better.
Sewer under that?
it's a section
I'm
from
all
the
for it.
stop sign down to Arrowhead. You know, it's, and yeah.
And the other addition is storm sewer, that wasn't an issue, 10 years ago now, or 15 years ago. Now it is. So that's a more expense to our roads, so we need to look at.
All right, anything else?
So we just recommend all complaints for roads go to the mayor, is that correct, Tim?
I think that we need to look at prioritizing it again, definitely. Whoever's on that committee and/or the department working with the engineer, whatever. I just think we need to update that priority list again.
Yeah, I think we can bring that up at the next.
Had out here before, only did roads. It did not.
It did not address those.
Utilities at all.
It did not. make a combination of those needs underneath. It doesn't do us any good to rip them up if there's stuff underneath that needs to be done at the same time.
Maybe get like a 5-year plan or something going on here with it as we get our act together.
By 10 years. Very good, thank you. And just one quick question with that drainage we did on that lot on Second Street. Evidently worked because I didn't see any standing water with that amount of rain, and we always had.
It is better.
Yeah, must have helped. Moving on, Chamber of Commerce updates.
Junior ambassadors, Danny Whitehead and Danny Lilia. And they've been working in the office and helping out like with the parade and things, so we'll see them around for Agate Days too. And like Bryce mentioned, we have Agate Days coming up this weekend, and we've got the change now with the Gem and Mineral Show going to be held at the arena instead of at the old school. It'll still be down on Elm, right in front of the city offices here in the library, and that's going to be at 3 o'clock this year. And there's steak fry at the fire hall on Saturday, starting at 4 o'clock. They always. Sunday is of course the Gem and Mineral Show, and it's, I forgot to mention, on Saturday is Art in the Park, and Sunday after 3 o'clock the cars parade down to Augustana to the assisted living parking lot. And coming up on July 21st is a triathlon, and August 10th is Nine and Dine golf outing. So it's busy time of the year for the chamber. They're not going to have a corn day this year like they've had for many years. It's just a lot of work, and the chamber board decided that it's too much work for what they get from it. One thing.
Moving on to number 5, previously discussed business. 5A is the gas.
Went well. Funding for road and utility improvements, and so no real comments to bring back, I guess.
And the next is
MSOP and DOC, yep.
so
Good job.
Thank you.
5B, animal control. A, resolution 18.07.01, supporting City of Cloquet Animal Impound Facility.
So all contract, and Cloquet has decided to put in place a 10 kennel act. It would be our new Friends of Animals. Would have seen 2 different articles. One was kind of refuting some of the things that we talked about at our city meetings, and then the second article was about them closing. Kind of points to more so the reason that we were looking at those increases was for those reasons. So anyways, I would ask that
Any questions, discussion?
Cloquet themselves have not actually accepted Every year after that, it would just be based on whatever their actual costs were, and being divvied up. But I think at that time, we would probably need to take a look at whether or not we want to just keep on trying to do it by ourselves, or if we want to do it by ourselves and then after a certain period of time, take them up there. We would need to take a look at that.
So just a quick question, Duluth, that's not an option, bringing them up to their facilities in Duluth, or?
The city of Duluth has their own kennel, they do it themselves. Otherwise, Animal Allies in the past has said that they don't really want to step into Carleton County because there is a shelter in Carleton County. However, because Friends of Animals is going to close, being set up to now see if they are interested in
Options, okay.
Any questions?
She just emailed me, the town clerk emailed me today and said that they didn't get
Comments by the council? Anything?
Will they send out 4 more dates for us to see what works for us?
Yeah, the dates were in July, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to send out a new...
5D, stripping parking spots, changing one way on Elm Avenue.
There's 2 quotes in... Put the question of switching Elm on there as a survey. We had 886 people vote. Did you vote?
Oh, I did not, but I know several people that voted more than once.
Okay, well, there you go.
How? I
All they
couldn't.
do is go on from another phone or another whatever.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, way to pop my bubble. Way to
Wants to change it.
They do.
and said leave it the way it is. I think even if those people did get on there and they did 50-50.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, anybody over 65 years old did not get on Facebook.
Change it, leave it, change it, leave it.
We can't just be 886 votes. That's a lot. I guess my point is that it's not overwhelming that we leave it. I will say this: if anybody didn't do it, go through the comments. Some of them are. Things that I certainly didn't think about, and I'm sure that others may have. And there was a lot of thought put into some of these. So
Nice to see that feedback, yeah.
yeah.
Well, now we know how many people actually look at the city Facebook page.
One thing that was to change, turn from the left lane or go across intersect, have to change the parking to the east side of the road, which I don't know if that was discussed. I wasn't here at the meeting, but I do remember that when it came up back then, that's one thing that would have to happen. If we're not going to put 4th Street into the group of it.
That was one of the idea. That was one of the kind of. I don't know. It was just that came up. At any rate, I think that we should probably leave it be. And there's 2 estimates for striping parking spots in the downtown in your packet. call that I made was, Phil, why'd you get two quotes from the same? No, they are not the same. They are different companies. And Kaminsky Seal Coat and Striping is the cheaper of the two.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we go with the first Kaminsky Seal Coat and Striping. Thank you.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure that it was getting done.
Weekend. They held it up and they took it, I don't know who or why or what took it down.
So could you look into that and see why the sign isn't there? That should have been there for last year. It's been done too.
Sign on, about Sunday sales, it was a
Yeah, it was
plastic with
I
stakes.
just read it.
It was taken down, I think, right before the 4th.
It's on a
Okay.
banner.
Yeah, it's right on Arrowhead, so if that's
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
we'll look into that.
Thanks.
Moving on to new business, 6A, Resolution 18.07.02, electric utility bond for $1 million. Mike, are you going to bring that up, or are you going to, Tim?
This doesn't matter. This is funds for us expanding at the power plant, putting in the new generator. So it's just a way to defer some of the costs by borrowing the funds for it.
It is it's a 5-year bond. Good. That's what we did with our last bond, is went local as well. I think that this is better than trying to pay. Now that they're going out and bonding longer term bond, but okay.
Go past.
The bank didn't want to go longer than 5 years. Okay. So I guess for a council, the council pass this resolution.
-07-02.
I'll second it.
Just a real quick, the rate
This-
increase?
This is for this year's, it was 15.
Okay. Any further
So help
questions
us.
by the council? Motion carried. Moving on in new business to number B, Moose Lake WWTF capacity letter.
Come up here and talk about BODs and all that stuff, we can certainly go down that path. Table 2 is the capacity currently being used is 1,029. So that puts us, where's the percentage, Phil?
Second page.
Second page, 87%. Oh, there, 87%.
Organic.
Before Phil even starts to harp on it, and he'll probably talk about it as well, this information only has, what did we say, a year and 2 months since we replaced that pipe?
I think it was 16 months. of
16
data,
months
of
since we
actual
replaced the pipe in that river. So the more that the further that we go when we collect 2018 information and 2019 information, as we're continuing to make improvements to I&I issues, we don't have as much data on that pipe that had a crack sitting in a river as we would like for this study. But of the remaining capacity is we could add basically 263 households, and that would make it so that we're at 100% of our. But we do.
That was the big information, we need to know where we're at. So that's,
I just want to know moving forward, what are we looking at? Are we here, and we're talking about doing things in economic development. We're trying to get new homes in here. Are we looking at, what is our 5-year plan, 10-year plan as far as the treatment ponds? Are we looking at another expansion on the ponds, or another pond or two?
I think that kind of depends on development. Would not be able to probably fit it all in. So the 5-year plan, yes, we have enough room up at the ponds to add additional ponds. Will we need to do that? I would say yes. At some point in the future, we are probably going to need to do that. One of the biggest factors that's working the other direction is that we know that we have an I&I problem. We are trying to fix our I&I issues in every single which way that we can. I think we've gone a long, long ways in the last year, and I think if we had more households, businesses, obviously, depending upon which one, can add a ton more. You know, if a Holiday gas station goes in and doing all that stuff like a hotel, you get a hotel to go in, and that's just a ton adding into your sewer system. So it depends on the business. It depends what we do with our I&I. But yes, long term, are we going to have to expand the ponds up there? Yeah, probably.
Does it have anything to do with Windermere Township also, or Windermere?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, their expansion also affects our expansion.
The only difference is that we do have the ability in our contract to not allow future expansions there.
you should know also, in that 2010 project where we put in first the collection system, the second part was to do the 3 ponds, which we canceled after the state pulled out. MPCA told us at the time they would have approved the 3 ponds, but no more. And after the negotiations were over in, it must have been in late 20, no, because David had passed away, it was in 12. They said they didn't know if they would ever approve ponds again because of our large system. And we would go have, because of the pond size. Now, what the MPCA would do now, I have no idea, because we're a number of years past that again, and but there were many different options. Have to look at before they would ever approve
some of this. One is the 21 and the 24-inch pipe that I talked about that we know has huge I&I issues, and it's a huge pipe. Okay, that's
South side, yes.
It's 10-inch right up to the entrance of
Their
DOC.
property line.
so
15.
if you want to talk about 2 projects that are real quick hitters, that we know that we have issues, that are not adding ponds, that address it, that we could do long before we would ever look at
Ponds.
ponds.
Yep.
But
with the state right now on using that 10-inch pipe that has been laying there for like 5 years unused. In that old 1932 clay pipe, almost a mile and a half clay pipe.
Yeah, and through a swamp, Greg, you're right, yes.
We should really be starting negotiating with them to really switch into that new pipe coming down and abandon that old clay pipe.
Or start the process of abandoning the clay
Absolutely.
pipe and say, that's it, it's not coming through here anymore. So I guess you better hook up to that 10-inch one that's there.
We should really be looking at this.
Like to get the powers that be to
It's
sit
going
down
to be
with.
coming up more and more, yeah, as an issue.
And it takes them time because their budget is a year away. They'd have to budget at least a year to get the money
Yeah, they're already
funded for it.
starting for,
Kind of like the city.
Yes, there's.
One thing I will add, if we reduce the hydraulic capacity, so we also means our organic loading goes up, because you have the mixture of the waste and then the clean water. So now, yes, we're doing good and our hydraulic numbers are coming down, but our organic loading is going up. One other thing too I want to bring up is nothing in this report, and NORD and SEH didn't have any of the information, because to get the information to do this takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and it's a big pain in the butt. Sludge levels in the ponds. So water goes out to the dredging our ponds. Huge amount. You know, how much more storage we might have by cleaning our ponds. But that is very expensive as well. So just a couple other things to throw out there.
Your work cut out.
So if you wanted a yes or no to a question, yeah.
No, I'd rather have a lot of different options and things that we can work on and that we should be working on and not just talking about, so.
I think it's important to know that we don't need to jump right to build new, and that we have a lot of things that we can address that are existing that can cause other problems as well that we can fix. So I think that there's some stuff that we can work on without having to go all the way to new ponds.
And it also shows the state that we are being proactive, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Number C, you may want to stay there.
This is just a,
Project final pay request and change order.
yeah, the change order is listed in there. It's basically everything that we did with that stretch of the road. Yeah,
So no questions, nothing.
I don't.
Council, questions for Phil or Tim?
No.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We don't need any motion on it.
Oh, yeah, on everything. It's $215,000. Then second motion to approve the final pay request.
So made.
So moved.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
The total pay request is in the amount of
Comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That was for both, as far as I
That
know.
would go for
Yeah.
both, and you don't
Yep.
need,
No.
you don't need to.
No.
Very good. All right, D, LMC and area cities meeting.
There was one new staff at the league, and then also he brought with him the insurance trust representative for all of the cities, and they invited. They're going kind of different areas of the state, and they invited us, Cloquet, Two Harbors, Carlton, and Scanlon, I believe. We all met, had lunch, talked about what more we could what we like, what more we could request from the league in support, both from the legislature side as well as the insurance side. We had a really good conversation. Some of the stuff that, I guess, from our community that I had brought up was, obviously from the legislature standpoint, it's not really up to them, but we need them to actually get something done. But more importantly, we need more lobbying on small cities funding for road and utility project improvements. I mean, there's, if you look at, say, the city of Hermantown, city of Duluth, city of Cloquet, those places get additional funding because there are over 5,000 people to do road projects. I mean, that's a huge chunk of money that we miss out on, and we enter into this smaller group trying to all fight for a pretty small pot of money. When we have smaller floods, like the 2016 one, which, how much was our total on that? I think it was like $200,000, we'll say. 250, something like that. Let's just say for easy math, cities could get insurance for floods like that. Not FEMA level floods. FEMA covers 100%. But state level floods, we are on the hook for that 25%, which can get pretty big. And we're certainly not sitting around planning for floods every single year.
Good job.
Moving on to
Is just the cross street, so you know where I'm talking about. 3rd Street, as Phil talked about, washed out again. I had a property owner come in and basically beg to have 3rd Street paved. I know that we talked about First. This might be a good one for next year because we don't have a 5-year plan in place. I don't know that we need to do utility. A pretty big problem with washouts coming through there.
This is one of 4 streets that we have that are still dirt within the city, correct?
Technically 6.
Well, no, we're up to 6.
One's past the ones on the end of the tree. In the north, there's a block there.
Yeah. Juniper. Then in Southtown, we have Cherry. That's what it is. Okay. And then this one, which just last time they couldn't exit their driveways, correct?
Yeah. So I guess all I'm really up with an engineering estimate for paving this road. What would you like for me to do?
We have a study that was done, I think, that we should follow the study.
Okay.
And if evaluate.
Reevaluate, and then, although the budget cycle is coming up quick, when are you thinking of the meeting with the engineers? Are you talking about in August? September, initial budget?
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't know that we're gonna have a road picked out and budgeted for next year because we don't have engineering specs for any road yet. It
It's
is.
a small section because it's only a half a block.
It is a separate pot of money for roads and utility improvements. So for next year's budget, what I'm probably going to do is just take our sales tax and budget that towards a road project line item. I don't know that we're going to have a road designed and budgeted for. I think
Prioritize.
Yeah, I mean, our initial budget needs to be to you guys in 2 months.
I would be more in favor of, let's do our groundwork first, and let's get a,
All those items would come up during that, and the prioritization of all the streets. Absolutely.
because this doesn't have, we don't know what kind of road bed it is, or... No.
The problem we have here, when it washes out, the people can't exit their homes with their vehicles. It puts it at, to me, a little different level than the other streets.
And looking at the road bed instead of blacktopping it right now would take care of both of those. It's going to be more solid. Both. We'd need to look at that too.
And there is stormwater right at the corner of where it hits Hickory. Stormwater runs down to that corner, across the street to the ditch.
Check.
And it might come to number one, but at the same time, I just don't think that we throw the old plan away.
Under Knollwood, 141 Knollwood water request. Tim?
The new property owner of 141 Knollwood is requesting water. What was his name, the old one? No. Shannon Boylan. Is that right?
Henderson.
Their daughters.
Daughters.
That was Boylan.
That wasn't Henderson.
Okay.
What would you like
I
for me
think
to do?
we've discussed this, and
We already did.
They have a well in now that they're using, correct?
They do, it doesn't work so well. So everything that he said was, the assessments were gonna be too expensive and he could do a well. Their well doesn't really work, so now they're requesting water. And then I told him how much it would cost, and he asked if the city would pay for it.
Well, we knew that, one thing we were always saying, that you're going to have to be assessed for it. Everyone on the street would be assessed for it. I feel terrible that we didn't move with it back then, that we left choices up to the owners more of the cheapest way of doing this instead of the right way. Again, I'm even questioning, I feel, to look at sometime.
Had a homeowner that had an estimate for $6,000 came in here and stated that he did not want to pay the $6,000. He wanted the city council and the city residents to pay for his $6,000 well. And at the time, it was reaching fall, and the bill was going to be about $186,000. And I think that we made the correct decision based on the people that put us here. So. And then it was his father-in-law that came forth, and all this happened over like a year period.
Yeah.
And then you're correct, at the end of it, there was 4 at the end, and then he sold it to somebody else. So now we're starting the cycle again.
And I guess that's where I'm at, is I am willing to try and get a hold of these 7 people again, but I'm also not really interested in doing this again and again. And I came in at the end and it was still exhausting. I don't want to keep doing this. So if enough time has passed that you guys would like me to contact all of these 7 people again and see if now they're willing to pay, if everyone's on board with the assessment, I will. If we want to pick a dollar amount that we want to pay for it, we can do that. I don't quite know that enough time has gone by that anything has really changed.
The engineering, I think, was there for a 6-inch or 4-inch and a 4-inch line, wasn't it already there?
Voted down.
So we don't have to start over. Maybe we can get those, or maybe they're on file and look at the costs there. And
Yeah, I found all that. I'm just saying, do you want me to reach back out and start this whole thing back up again?
I guess I would send it back to him. My opinion would be send it back to the homeowner and say that there was an understanding in the last year that we were not going to do this. If you have 7 members that want to come forth and are willing to pay for it, here's the price of what it was. They can sign off on it, and we can put it into motion.
Okay. Did you guys ever discuss the city paying for a portion? Any portion, just so that I know that off.
funds, and I said maybe we could do this as a, 3-prong attack where the landowners would pay for some, the city would pay for some, and then we could take some out of that fund. Well, that fund is gone. And again, they didn't understand what I meant there. They thought it was terrible, my
4-inch down there, I think we budgeted 150,000, and we voted not to spend that money. That would be in the records if you wanted to look that.
I don't believe that we
think we-
budgeted since I've been on here.
I think we need to go back to Councilor
You'll find
Judge's
it in the
decision
records
that
if you look back at.
So it was a proposed budget, but it wasn't in the budget. It was,
Yeah, we
maybe
didn't
it was
have
one of
the
those
funding, I
items
don't
that was
think.
brought forth, and I think that,
I think once he finds it, you'll see that it is in the budget. Because it was, we budgeted the year before, and in the fall, when we did the final vote, and we said, no, it's too expensive. Father-in-law. I think we had only 3 people that would agree to hook onto it. The others didn't even want to hook onto it.
yeah,
Correct.
I
I
think,
do, I agree with that.
I agree, we need to go back.
Do we have consensus?
They want, if they can come back with the 7 people on there that are willing to pay for a majority of the work, then we can go forward and do it, but
It is going to come.
this,
Okay.
But I think the assessment can only be a percentage, correct? By law.
Requesting the improvement. So, like, if you redo a road in the water right now, so technically we could charge them a per person fee. I don't know that we would want to.
Okay.
I think that we could pay for a portion, not all of it.
Consensus
Yep,
by
I
the
agree.
council?
Yep.
Greg? Chris? Under G, performance review.
Why don't you skip that one and do all the rest of
At
it?
the
Yeah.
end of it. Commercial,
I would suggest the cheapest one. It's also the largest, so. And we need it for this weekend, so please.
This
Make a
weekend?
motion.
Yeah, for Agate Days.
Oh,
Well, I'll make a motion, we purchase it's a freezer,
Yep,
refrigerator,
freezer.
freezer, in the amount of $1603 from Doherty Appliances.
Okay.
second? All in favor? We'll do the closed session at 6H at the end of 7, 8, or 9, and then we'll come back and vote on the contract, and then we will adjourn. So moving on to 7, reports and correspondence. 7A is a data request. Open the books.
Yeah, they're just, A and B are both data requests that, just to let you know, do, and I just wanted you to be aware of them.
When this individual asks, it says he'll pay okay.
I sent both of them to our attorney, especially the first one, because that's just, I mean, you're getting people that it makes no sense to get, lifeguards, things like that. It just makes no sense for someone to request that, but, yep, both of them are legal, and no, I can't charge for my time.
Can we change?
Not really. No, I wouldn't be for this, and not really. Yeah, I think it said, I'm pretty sure that it is, but also it's all really based on just like reasonable expense for things like these. And the problem with some of these, I think one of them was $10.50, and the other one's going to be something like $1.
Mm-hmm.
They just take time to kind of pull together, so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
8, committee and board meeting minutes. We have 8A, the Moose Lake Power regular meeting minutes for April 17th, 2018. B, the C, Economic Development Authority meeting minutes for June 13th, 2018. Is there any questions on the minutes?
No.
None? Regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, August 8th at 4 p.m. Right here. Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, August 8th at 12 p.m. in the conference. Moose Lake Housing Redevelopment Authority Board, August 13th, 11 a.m. at Hillside Manor office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, August 14th, 6:30 p.m. Emergency Response Center.
That's election day, so that's going to probably change. We should have done it last night.
Library Board meeting, August 13th at 1:45 p.m. in the conference room. Moose Lake.
This month.
So Moose Lake Technology Committee, August 2nd at 9 a.m. in the conference room.
And Mayor, could I add one more?
Yeah.
Cemetery Board meeting